kind of maybe do a shared screen experience for you all. So those of you who didn't see it, here's our agenda. You know, we still have people calling in. Everybody knows who everybody else is, but I do need everybody to be sure that they understand that I'm still the commander, because we need to have a vote later tonight. Jason Hensley is still our vice commander. Mr. Dolish is our adjutant, and I'm kind of been filling in for Mr. Dolish because he's been still in Michigan. John Riccio is our chaplain. I don't know where John is tonight, so if all else fails, I may just ask somebody to give us a prayer. So don't be surprised.
He sent in the prayers.
He sent in the prayers? Where are they?
They're in the Legion email, Joe.
Oh, they're in the email. So I might have to have somebody do the prayers for us. Where are they? Boom, 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 boom. Where did you see the prayers?
I will find them.
Yeah. So I'll have maybe one of you do the prayers tonight, okay? If you don't mind, because I can't do it all. I can try to do it all, but
you've been trying to do it all.
Yes, I know. Well, maybe I'll have Greg Hopper do the prayer. He's a very religious kind of guy. Because Walter is too new at this point. I don't want to put him on the spot, but Greg can give a really good prayer. And then we
Somebody
have
alert the fire department.
Yes, Tom Sisolek is our squadron commander. Tom is calling in. He's still working on his webcam. By the way, Coach Sisolek and I talked. He is trying to get his webcam connected. So I am looking forward to a day when we see Coach Sisolek's face. And then James Conley has also been having computer problems, but he's got a webcam, so we'll go from there. We're currently at 30 paid members. Mr. Walter Rotz is being added to our system because I sent Bloomington a message, so we will be up to 31. And Jim Schroeder has submitted some paperwork to me, so we will be getting his paperwork into Bloomington. So we will go up to 32 members by next month. Sorry, I've been doing school stuff all day, so I'm thinking semesters. So we have, for the first time in the history of our post, many years, gone past the 30-person mark. And I want to say thank you, everybody, because you can't grow if you don't grow. And you can't go from small to bigger unless you get more members. And you can't get more members unless people are interested in showing up. So, so keep that in mind. So, and then we're also at 15 paid members for the for Sons of the American Legion. And I would just ask you all to consider going to mylegion.org. Since I have now have access to mylegion.org, I can actually go on and check our membership numbers, names, and things like that. But it also gives you the opportunity to control your account. So my long-term goal is for everybody to get on My Legion, and it allows me to put out messages to you, but more importantly, it allows you to see things that are going on and benefits and stuff like that. So please look at mylegion.org and register. Right now we have 2 members that are registered in mylegion.org. It's me and the vice commander. So we're trying to set the tone. So
is the SAL on there, Commander?
Yes, SAL is on there too, Greg.
Okay.
So if you go in there, when you bring up My Legion, it's really quite user-friendly, and you can manage your account. So I actually have visibility on all SAL members, and I have visibility now on all post members, and that's kind of nice. So I'd like to just say, keep that in mind. So at this point, what I'd like to do is I'd like you all to render your hand salute, and I'd like you to, and I would like at this point, Ron, could you do the Pledge of Allegiance for us?
What was that again?
Do the Pledge of Allegiance for us.
Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, sir.
I pledge of allegiance to my flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, order arms. Okay, thanks you. I'm not big into the two stuff and all that stuff, and I'm sorry about that, but I just never understood the two stuff. I'm going to bring up the prayers now. Here they are. And, oh, here they are. So he couldn't make it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the prayers, and I'm going to ask one of you, some very lucky person, to do our prayers tonight. And who should be that lucky person to do our prayers? You know what, John? I like you a lot.
No, don't ask me because my computer's like going wacko here.
Okay. Well, that's a good excuse.
I'm not sure exactly where I'm at.
Well, that's okay. I'm not sure exactly where I'm at on any given day, but that's okay. Hey, Greg, would you do the opening prayer for us? Can you see that?
Let's see. Yeah, I can see it. Get the holy water ready.
Do I need it in one of those shakers or?
You need a 55-gallon drum of it.
Okay.
I'm
great.
alerting the fire department.
Okay.
Attaboy.
Go for it, Greg.
Our Father, thank you for the privilege of meeting here today. Give us thy strength, wisdom, and guidance. Grant our members your blessing as we work with pride and patriotism to further the aims and purposes of our cause to the veterans and their families. Thank you for preserving our democracy and loyalty reside. Help us to retain peace and grant us thy never-failing love. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, John. I really appreciate that. And so let's just go back to our agenda.
Any survivors?
Yes, we're all survivors.
Okay, cool.
So what I'd like to do, since the vice commander isn't here, I would like, you know what? I would like who to read this. This would be great. We need to have somebody do this. Let's see. I asked John, what about Mr. Ward? Mr. Ward, could you read the preamble to the Constitution, please?
I sure will, sir.
Are you going to use your card or do you want to use the screen?
I can use my card. I can read this. That's too small.
So what you're saying is that everybody should have their card out, right?
Unless they know the words verbatim.
Okay, I got my card.
Everybody ready?
Ready. But don't read it together because there'll be an echo. You just read it alone, okay? Everybody
Preamble
else.
to the Constitution of the American Legion. For God and country, we associate ourselves together for the following purposes: to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, to maintain law and order, to foster and perpetuate a 100% Americanism,
Can't hear anything.
to preserve the memories and incidents of our associations in the great wars,
Here.
to inculcate a sense of individual obligation to the community, state, and nation, to combat the autocracy of both the classes and the masses, to make right the master of might, to promote peace and goodwill on earth, to safeguard and transmit to posterity the principles of justice, freedom, and democracy, to consecrate and sanctify our comradeship by our devotion to mutual helpfulness.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Appreciate it. At this point, I will declare this meeting of the Riverside American Legion post number 088. We are now convened. I'd ask you to, if you have, I'll give you a minute or so to read the minutes. If you have not read the minutes, I will bring them up for you all to see. I'll give you about a minute. I'll slowly go through them. Jason, I think you got a hot mic. Somebody's got a hot mic, so you might want to go mute if you're with the background. Is that slow enough for everybody?
That's good.
Good, I'm glad. I like the part that Mr. Ward wants to adopt Marla. That's great. I like that. That's good that we captured that.
Oh.
I'm just not sure if my strawberry comment has been captured properly.
I did not capture the strawberry comment.
Oh, man.
You know, Marlo, you had one job. Come on. You know, I'm just telling you.
Okay, everybody. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. By the decision, by my judgment, I believe everybody has agreed that the minutes have been approved. At the next point, I want to just introduce some guests I did introduce to you all Mr. Walter Watts earlier. He is new, but he is going to be coming on board officially once his paperwork gets approved by the by Bloomington. And I also want to recognize Alex Colegios, who's one of our village leaders, and also a ardent member of the Lions Club of Riverside, and just a very good supporter of our post. And somehow, some way, I'm going to figure out a way to make him a Sons of the American Legion member. I'm working on that, Alex, so don't give up on me, because I don't give up on you. And I also want
Adopt him.
yeah, that sounds so simple, but that's difficult.
You have to
Why?
adopt us all, Mr. Ward.
Yeah,
Why?
Mr. Ward, you adopt us all.
He just became a stepson.
Well, there you go. So there you go,
Hey, if
Alex.
Angelina Jolie can do it, so can Tony.
Alex, you have just become Mr. Ward's adopted son. You talk out with him. If you've never talked with him personally, you probably need to have a cup of coffee with him. And to know Mr. Ward is to love Mr. Ward. That has been my experience. Loving
I don't know.
in a professional manner.
Careful, Commander. My head is swelling here. It won't fit the screen.
Okay, great. Now, Jason's not
Don't
here.
encourage him, Commander.
Jason's not here, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to read this because
I am here.
Not you, babe.
Coach Sisolek is here. Coach, can you read the reading and provide the moment of silence for us? Do you have that in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, Coach, because that would be great.
Okay, this is a story that was written by Joanne Cozy, the president of the Riverside Lions Club. Was written on March 26, 2019, a year ago, and it is pertaining to Lou Heine, member of the American Legion, Post 488, and also the Lions Club and several other organizations. She wrote a year ago, "It was always a sign of spring for me when I would see Lou Heine driving around Riverside in his Model A Ford. Almost made me think of an earlier Riverside when there were fewer cars. Lou loved that car, taking trips with his wife Martha and meeting up with members of the Salt Creek Model A Club. Each year he proudly drove the Lions Club's Person of the Year in the July 4th parade in Riverside. Lou Heine passed away last week. He and his wife Martha have lived in the village for 57 years. Raised 3 boys, and he enjoyed being a grandfather and a great-grandfather. The couple had recently sold their lovingly Victorian home in Riverside and were preparing to move when Lou's health took a turn for the worse. Lou was an interesting man who lived a quiet life and shared much of it with those he met through his job at Western Electric, the Lions Club, as president of the Little League, the Presbyterian Church, and the American Legion. As a U.S. Navy corpsman and Korean veteran, he earned a Purple Heart. His experiences in the service were told at the Riverside Memorial Day program in 2016, where he was honored as the Riverside Veteran of the Year. He related stories that even his son, Mike, said he had never heard before. Lou enjoyed reading, woodworking, and making hobby horses. In 1999, Martha and Lou Heine were honored as Persons of the Year, one of only 2 couples who have received that honor jointly because they work closely together in many of their interests in the village. The couple was videotaped by the Riverside Cable Commission, and the interview appears on Riverside TV from time to time. Viewers will delight in stories about their backgrounds and how they arrived in Riverside. As Lions Club president, I, Joanne Cozy, can attest that there have been only a few members as diligent as Lou, and he will be missed. He never missed a meeting unless out of town or held back by health. He was a past president of the club, and I could depend on him for support and suggestions. He took on the task of collecting eyeglasses for the Lions Club and getting them to the distribution center. He and his committee collected over 1,000 pairs of used glasses last year. Whether he wore his Lions vest with many pins or his Legion cap, or was driving his Model A, he will be remembered as one of our town's best. That was once again written by Joanne Cozy, president of the Riverside Lions Club.
We just ask you all to just take a moment of silence and just think about Lou, think about other people that have passed, and how do we remember them. Okay, everybody, I want to thank you for coming tonight. And as like I like to try to do is I like to have our guest speakers first, and then go through the work of the organization. And tonight, I have to tell you that I am particularly honored to have somebody that I have said on social media, I've told people in person, I've told him in person, that he is truly a role model. Today, we have Michael Holub, who I first met when I was an ROTC cadet many moons ago on Memorial Day. And I can't remember what year, but I remember that we were at Mount Auburn Cemetery. And he was at the time a Stickney police officer. And my mother introduced me to him and said, this guy is really outstanding. And what caught me off guard at the time was I saw these incredible silver items, silver wings on his chest. Sounds like a song, doesn't it? And it is. And I said to myself, my God, this is a Stickney police officer with airborne wings. That's amazing. This is amazing. And I remember thinking, and actually I thought about you, sir, when I was at airborne school, but it wasn't the same. It was a different feeling when I was getting bruised and things like that. But it was we are delighted to have you today. Your bio has been posted. He has been a law enforcement officer for most of his civilian life, but there's that life about him you may not know. And there's a life about the old guard, which you may not know. And I think you will learn something, I think it'll be very informative today. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Chief Holub. Chief, thank you for coming today. You should have access to the shared screen. My post is your poster.
All right, thank you, and welcome everybody. It's nice to see everybody here. So I'm gonna I had to put my cheaters on to make sure that I correctly share my screen.
And don't forget to push the button that says sound.
Yeah,
so that,
yeah. I think, let's see. Are you seeing it? All right, you should have my screen now, right?
There it is.
Okay, excellent. So we're gonna start from the current. So by the way, I met. I knew your mom, Commander. My dad and your grandparents were realtors, and I remember as a high schooler, they used to have those MLS parties, multiple listing parties, and I think I knew your parents from there through my dad, and then I think I met your mom for the first time. She was probably just out of school or maybe a senior in college. I don't know. She was a couple of years ahead of me, but so I knew her for quite a long time, and it was my honor to know her throughout her career and most of my police career as well. So,
thank you, sir.
Oh, all right. So, yeah, I think probably back in, it was when President Reagan passed away, there was a lot of interest in the old guard because there hadn't been a state level funeral since the previous one, which was Lyndon Johnson's in 1973. So there was a lot of interest in the old guard. And I was asked even by my own Legion post, I'm a member of Coulter Post 1941 in LaGrange, but I was asked to do a presentation about the old guard, and it grew from there, and I've been doing it ever since. So I was a member of a Bravo company during the 70s, and I'll talk a little bit about, a lot of people know about the old guard. Maybe they don't know it by that name, but they certainly know us probably by our most recognizable component, which are the Sentinels at the Tomb of the Unknowns. So I'm going to talk about all the various things that the Old Guard does. It's, again, part of the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, which is the oldest active duty infantry regiment still serving. It goes back to the 1700s, 1784, when we were established. And we've been on active duty and primarily as the Old Guard since the late 40s. So let's talk about some of the specialty units within the Old Guard and some of the specialty tasks that are performed. Maybe eye-opening for some of you. So the first one I want to bring up is the Continental Color Guard. And I bring them up first because they generally lead any appearance that we are at, whether it's leading off the inaugural parade, leading off a function in Washington, D.C. You might see them often at high-profile events such as the Super Bowl. And you'll see there's 5 members there. The outside 2 have their rifles, they're carrying their muskets, and the inside 3 have the Army flag. First, the American flag, they're on the far left, the Army flag next, and then the Old Guard flag there. Now, you see they're wearing the traditional infantry uniform from 1784. That's a navy blue coat. They're wearing a tri-cornered hat and white powdered wigs. And the tri-cornered hat it's the inspiration for our unit crest, which is a cockade worn on the epaulette of our uniform. So Continental color guard. Next one I like to bring up, all the services have an honor guard. Several of them have a drill team, and the Army is no different. The U.S. Army drill team featured here. They march, and they're especially, we can always tell the guy on the drill team because they're the ones with the hands that were always beat up and cut up or black and blue as they became proficient with their weapons. And they would always drill. They had a 6-foot stump of wood, an old tree trunk that they used to practice with their throwing the rifles back and forth. So they were pretty respected group there. And here they are performing one of their wave routines where they go back and forth. And another picture of them here, I think this might be along the reflecting pool in Washington, D.C. But they perform all their routines. Here they are at one of the Super Bowl functions with their 1903 Springfield rifles, and they always perform with their bayonets fixed. So that's the U.S. Army drill team. Next thing is, yes, the salute guns platoon. Hopefully that cannon blast was heard. These are probably the cleanest cannons you'll ever see in any of the branches. And you can see some of the statistics there at the bottom. They weigh over 5,700 pounds. They fire a 75 millimeter round with a 1.5 pound load of black powder. And you'll often hear them in Arlington Cemetery firing during a state level funeral. But they also do other functions in and around Washington, D.C. One of the most impressive things that they do is they join with the U.S. Army Band in a rendition of the 1812 Overture, where they actually do the live cannon performances. And if any of you have ever seen that, Torchlight Tattoo is the name of the performance. It's culminated with the 1812 Overture and the salute guns platoon performing their duty. The Caisson Platoon. The Old Guard, 3rd Infantry Regiment, is still authorized horses. The last unit that I know of that still has horses authorized. And the caissons are the wagon that was in other battles was used to transport munitions, soldiers, maybe even pull cannons in some places. But here you see the Caisson Platoon there. They've got their bloomers, their riding bloomers, if you will, with their riding boots. They're wearing spurs. And the Caisson Platoon is a group of soldiers that do this for all branches. So in this picture here, what you're looking at are 3 soldiers, and they're mounted only on the left side, and I'll explain that in a minute, but behind them, you'll see that there is a casket on the caisson, and they're going to the grave site. So, you know, what's involved with this? So the 6 horses carry the 3 soldiers on the left, but all 6 are saddled. The tradition goes back into historical times when the right side was left open for munitions and other supplies. But there's grays and there's the darks. To me, the grays were the spookier ones. Here they're pictured here. You can only see 4 of the 6, but this is at a grave site. So, you know, what you're looking at here, off to the left, you'll see a platoon of soldiers that are in preparation for the full honor service. They've just arrived at the grave site. The soldiers, the casket team members, are getting ready to take this casket off of the caisson. Over here, if you can see my arrow, you'll see the riderless caparisoned horse and the handler of the riderless horse there. So this is obviously a state level dignitary that's afforded the honor or distinction of having a riderless horse. Musical interlude by most of us probably know that song. often the fighting members were taking their direction based on charges or bugle calls or different songs that were played by the musicians of the army, and the Fife and Drum Corps represents that. You can see here in the sergeant picture, these aren't the British soldiers. This is not the redcoats are coming, the redcoats are coming. But in order for our soldiers to see their inspirational musicians through the smoke and fire of combat, they wore red to be easily recognized and distinguished. And you can imagine the inspiration and esprit de corps that was felt when they saw their musicians ready to help them gain the inspiration they needed to go on in their battle.
Chief, may I interrupt you for a second?
Go ahead, absolutely.
I don't know if everybody sees your picture. I heard the bugles, but I'm seeing little parts. Is everybody seeing the full picture, or is it just
It's
me?
pixelated.
It's pixelated. And also,
An
Chief,
incomplete picture.
would you reduce the size of your image? We're only seeing parts of it.
I don't know how I can do that. Let's see.
I think if you just stop
not
sharing and
fully
try to reshare.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's a good.
Yeah,
Is it
it's
work-
not
if-
fully loaded.
Do it this way. Can you see it now? Is
No.
that better?
No,
Nope.
No.
it's frozen. So like we actually see like your mouse is like the blue circle and it's frozen.
Sorry about that, Chief. I hate to be
Oh,
the
that's-
person to do that.
No, that's all
It's a
right.
Zoom thing. It's not you and it's not us. It's just a Zoom glitch.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to remedy this.
Do this. Try this. Try unsharing and then reshare again. So,
Okay.
I can end it for you and you can.
Well, I'll do the stop share. I had it
There you
right
go.
there in front of me. So
and then go back.
Try
We see you.
again.
You look great, though.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I really get. So let's see. Let's move on. We've already seen this.
You just need to
that-
share. You need to
Is that
share.
good? Oh yeah, you guys want to see it as well, right? Okay.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
if you'd like to.
All right, let me do this.
I was actually at a presentation the other day. We were at they had like about 100 professors, and this happened to one of the guys. I'm like, oh,
There it is.
man. There it is.
All right, so with this, let's see, I'll try this again. If we, are you seeing a full screen now?
Yep.
Okay,
Now we are. Now we're cooking.
now we're cooking. All right, so let's see, I can go back. Let's see, I'll go back to just finishing with the Fife and Drum Corps. That old news, you know the song. The next component is the Commander-in-Chief's Guard. And after 1776, George Washington had a specialty unit that was handpicked for his personal guard called the Commander-in-Chief's Guard.
Sorry about that, Chief. You gotta do it again. You know what's doing it?
No.
It's the bugle sound. The bugle sound is ruining it.
Okay, got it. I'll stop with and let me go back. I'll stop and we'll pick it up from here again then.
I like the bugle sound though. That was pretty neat.
Share screen. Good?
Yes.
All right. So we won't go back to that Fife and Drum Corps music anymore, that's for sure. Anyway, so the Commander-in-Chief's Guard is replicated today by Alpha Company, Company A of the Old Guard, and they do everything from their uniform specs to their manual of arms based on the rules that were prescribed by General Baron Friedrich von Steuben, and they're pretty realistic in their representation. And you can see here they're represented here. They're on Summerall Field, which is the parade field for Fort Myer, the home of the Old Guard, and they're carrying their Brown Bess muskets. They're firing it on the one scene, and they're doing a presentation here for the general public, where they go through their manual of arms and they actually do a charge, and they culminate at the end here with they're in a circle defending themselves. So pretty realistic. Unlike the musicians, they, like the Commander-in-Chief's Guard, color guard, they have the traditional infantry navy blue uniform with the tri-cornered hat and the white powdered wigs. So that's the Commander-in-Chief's Guard. And now the Tomb of the Unknowns. Again, I think this is probably the most recognizable of the specialty units within the Old Guard. There's an older picture on the left and a current Sentinel on the right there. So let's talk a little bit about it, educate you as much as I can about the Sentinels of the Tomb. Again, probably the most viewed of the units. So Here we go. Here's a Sentinel here. What you're seeing in front or to his left is the giant tomb itself. And in front are those 3 white concrete areas that represents World War I, World War II, and Korea War veterans. Many of you may remember that there was a Vietnam veteran interred for a short period of time. But because of circumstances, they were able to narrow down who that unknown may be based on just narrowing it down. And when they disinterred that person, they were able to confirm his identity. It was a man, and it was an Air Force pilot that was shot down in Vietnam. We may never have another unknown because of things like DNA, but the 3 that remain are World War I, World War II, and the Korean unknowns. You also see that that soldier is marching at right shoulder arms, meaning that the weapon is furthest away from the tomb. Tomb is on his left and the right is there. So what else are we looking at here? How many of you have ever gotten that email on a Jeopardy? A question was asked recently about the Sentinels at the tomb. How many steps did they take? Blah, blah, blah. And how long do they wait and they pause at each one? Well, the answer for both of those questions is 21. And it alludes to the 21 gun salute, which is the highest honor given to any military dignitary. So they walk 21 steps. They pause 21 sections and make a shoulder change to return the other direction, always keeping their weapon for the farthest side away from the tomb. That's the 21, the 21, and the 21.
Interesting.
You've seen, we have a picture here of Sergeant Heather Lynn Johnson, who in 1996 was the first woman to become a tomb guard. She was an MP from the assigned company. There's a company that's assigned permanently to the 3rd Infantry Regiment. And she is one of seven, I think there are 7 or 8 females, hope my count is pretty close, who have earned the qualification badge. They've only given out 683. I checked this recently, and that's the most recent one issued. There's a display underneath the Coliseum, the amphitheater at the Tomb of the Unknowns, where those badges are, their badge numbers are displayed on a plaque, a wall of fame, so to speak. It's the 2nd least awarded qualification badge, by the way. Anybody care to venture a guess of what is the least awarded qualification badge in the Army?
Congressional Medal of Honor.
No, that's a ribbon or a medal that's awarded, but this is a qualification badge. The tomb badge is a qualification badge.
The glider badge.
No, but you're on the right track. It's the Army astronaut.
Is it the
Astronaut. Ah.
The Army astronaut badge. And the old guard has just adopted another qualification badge recently. As recently as last year, a Master Rider badge has been authorized by the Department of the Army and Department of Defense. So after a certain number of rides as a member of the Caisson Platoon, you would get the Caisson Master Rider badge. So that's another one. So maybe that's a trivia question you can win money at your next, when you challenge the guy sitting next to you, said, who's buying the next beer? Get him with that trivia question, right?
Whoever doesn't have their challenge
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? I am Corporal Davis of the 3rd Infantry Regiment, United States Army, Assistant Relief Commander, Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. The ceremony you are about to witness is the changing of the guard.
All right, I hope that audio didn't change our display at all, but I'm sure many of you may have seen in person the changing of the guards. I took that little audio from something else. That's obviously not a corporal there, who's the commander of relief. But, you know, let's just dissect what we're looking at here. Again, the far right in the picture is the tomb itself.
Chief, the sound did it again. You're going to have to.
Did it again.
It's got, again, I'm sorry about that.
No problem. It's easy to fix. We'll go back. We'll share the screen once again. Got it back full screen?
Yes.
There it is.
All right. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at the tomb on the right. The soldier on the black rubber mat is the one who has just been posted. The one in the middle there has just been relieved by the commander of relief there, who in this particular case is the sergeant. And so let's dissect a little bit more about what you're looking at. So as I go through my clicks here, you're looking at the soldiers are carrying M14 rifles with a hand-finished stock. One of the things that new members of the tomb do is they work on their own stock. It becomes their personal pride and glory. They're also adorned with a custom chrome bayonet. It's a wood handle on there. These were donated to the Old Guard by an anonymous benefactor. You're also looking at soldiers who are wearing aviator sunglasses. You don't often see that sunglasses are authorized for use except by drivers of members, especially in dress uniforms in the military. But because there's so much reflection there with all the marble, all the white concrete, they would literally be squinting the entire time that they were out doing their duty. So they are authorized aviator sunglasses. They're made by a well-known group, a sunglasses provider, but you can't buy them. They're made exclusively for members of the tomb of the Sentinels at the tomb. They're wearing white cotton gloves. So in addition to wearing their wool coats and long white sleeve shirts with gloves and hats, they've got a belt on and everything else. They're wearing white cotton gloves. They're probably moistened a little bit to give them a firmer grip on their weapon while they do their shoulder changes. But you know, imagine being one of the DC summers when it's you know, low or mid 90s and over 80% humidity, and they're out there with dress uniform on. So you know, kudos to them as they continue on. Their shoes are leather. They are not Corfam or patent leather. They're spit shine, you know, what we used to call low quarters. They spend hours working on their shoes. All the members of the Old Guard have these, and their soles and heels are built up. It started with the tomb guards because of the heat of all that concrete. So it was to provide a little bit of a shield or barrier between their feet and the concrete, but they're also adorned with a toe tap, a horseshoe cleat on the heel, and inside of their heel is a metal piece of a cleat that accentuates their heel clicks as they go through their maneuvers. So they're specialty shoes that are there. All right, they're on the rubber mat, and I know it's difficult to see, but on the rubber mat are wear marks from where they march on it. So this one in particular, and I know it because I posted this picture, has got wear marks from where they walk. So this is not a new mat. The mat gets changed twice a year on Memorial Day, which has just occurred, and then the next time is on Veterans Day. And those mats, the old mats are retained, and I'll talk about that in just a second. On their right pocket, their uniform pocket is where they wear their tomb badge. And again, there's just under 700 of these, but it's a depiction of the tomb with the words honor guard adorned by the oak leaves around it. So that's the tomb sentinels. Now this next picture, this is a picture, by the way, that I took and appeared in the American Legion calendar a couple of years ago. But I had the opportunity to be there before visitor hours, and this was just before the sun broke. So I had that golden look to it. I thought it was a great picture, and it actually won the photo contest for the American Legion. But you might be able to see a little bit better. On that black mat, there are wear marks. And the one you see right at the end of the mat is where that sentinel is going to make his stop and his turn. The old mat, as I mentioned, is rolled up and kept because new members practice on the old mat. They practice getting their gait, the length of their stride, and their pivots and turns by following in the footsteps of the mat that's worn out. So that's pretty helpful to training new sentinels by working off of the old mat. So again, you can see the three white marks in front of the tomb that are where the three unknowns are interred. Now what you can't see in this picture is right on the front here, and I've accentuated this with an additional slide. This is an inscription on the tomb that says, "Here rests in honored glory an American soldier known but to God." So although you can't see it in this picture, that's what that inscription says. And the way it's currently set up, you can't get close enough to read it anymore. But you'll also notice on the left of the mat, and I'm highlighting it with my arrow here, what are you seeing there? You're seeing rust marks on the concrete. And the rust marks are actually from the Old Guard Sentinels' metal heel clicks and their horseshoe cleats. So it's actually been rusted by them walking on it under wet conditions, because we're out there. The members of the tomb are out there 24/7, day and night, and they continue their tours. They never leave their post. All right. In 2018, Sig Sauer came up with an M17 pistol, which replaced the previous sidearm for the commanders of relief. And it's a new custom sidearm, and it's got rosewood handles. And in the center of that is a little emblem that depicts the Tomb of the Unknowns. There's also inscriptions on the side, the slide of the Sig Sauer, which say honor, dignity. There's several of them that are issued and made specifically for, so it's again, like the sunglasses, it's unavailable to anybody but members of the Tomb of the Unknowns, the Sentinels at the tombs. There's a little bit bigger close-up with the magazine extension. That weapon is loaded. The M14s for the Sentinels are not loaded. There are plenty of stories, though, of people challenging tomb guards, not only that have made YouTube, but before the days of YouTube, back during the time when I was there, stories about tomb guards responding in various ways to maintain peace and order at the tomb, very sacred place. Casket teams, kind of were, you know, close to my heart, near and dear to my heart, because this is my legacy in the old guard, was the casket team. What you see is an 8-member casket team here. Chaplain is performing the services, and they're holding the outstretched flag over an urn. It would normally be a casket, but this is obviously a cremation, so there's an urn underneath there. The goal, question? No? Okay. The goal of the old guard soldiers is to have that flag stretched out so that it looks like a flat piece, maybe like a 4x8 piece of plywood. And I got a little bit closer picture of it here. So what you see are these soldiers with their fingers curled under holding that flag, and their thumbs are on the top. So I'm going to pretend that I'm the first person opposite of that person on the far right there. And if I saw that his left hand, directly opposite from my right hand, was a little bit low, by moving my thumb back and forth, I would indicate to that person to bring it down. If I moved my thumb up and down, would be to bring it up. So we are constantly, we're not looking, we're not tilting our heads down at a funeral site to look at the flag, but we're looking across at the flag of the person across from us, and we're correcting them if their flag appears to be uneven in any way or high in one point. So again, our goal is to have a perfectly level flag. And then of course it's folded over the casket. You can't see to the left, the soldier at the far left there receives the folded flag as it's passed down after it's folded. And then the officer in charge, the OIC, receives it from the member of the casket team, and that OIC then presents it to the next of kin or the family member. The firing party. Present, there are 3 levels of funerals: simple honors, which is generally a 6-member casket team, and then simple drops is the 6-member team. A simple honor and a full honor have 8-member casket teams. And both of those categories with the 8-member casket teams would be accompanied by a firing party. The picture on the left, you can also see off in the distance with the red hat is a musician from the U.S. Army band that's going to render taps. They're at present arms. After they do their firing, taps are played, and they're at present arms appropriately. They're off quite a distance from the gravesite, because you can imagine that not only would the bugle be very loud, but the firing of 7 soldiers firing 3 volleys, and the command, that is the command to them, firing party, fire 3 volleys. 7 times 3 is the 21 guns. But they're off, as I said, a good distance from the family members and the gravesite, because it is very loud. And after having done several hundred full honor funerals at Arlington Cemetery, it never gets any less emotional. It is always something that touches the heart when they do the fire of the 3 volleys and then taps. It's heart-wrenching. And here they are in the rain, ready to do their firing. So, and again, we always used to joke with the members of the firing party. You don't want to hear 7 individual rifles going off. And those of you who have served on your own post honor guard or in another honor guard, you know the goal is for you all to fire at exactly the same time. A company was added in 1994 of military police and working dogs to assist. They do various tasks in and around the DC area in support of the Old Guard. They're a fully qualified MP unit with the working dogs. Again, they assist in a multitude of functions in and around the National Capital Region. And I like to say that they're probably the best dressed MPs in the Army. So what we just missed with Memorial Day actually was supposed to be a presenter at the Western Springs Memorial Day function. I was their keynote speaker, but on the Thursday before Memorial Day is an event called Flags In. And Flags In is where the soldiers of the Old Guard go out and they put a little small flag in front of all the appropriate graves in Arlington Cemetery. Now, Arlington Cemetery has some other gravestones that are not just the traditional white pill tablet looking ones, but you know, probably 230 or 240,000 graves are adorned with that flag. And that's done in about 4 hours by about 1,000 members of the Old Guard. It's done rather quickly. It's conducted, as I said, on the Thursday, the last Thursday before Memorial Day. And it's done when funeral services are completed for the day at Arlington National Cemetery. Usually when I give a presentation in person, I take with me a flag that I placed personally at the Kennedy Eternal Flame. I made sure I went back and I retrieved it afterwards, just because I wanted it as a keepsake. It was that important to me, you know. I brought it home, and who knew that years later I'd be using it in presentations. All right, so here's the Flags In. Generally, what they'll do is it's centered in front of the gravestone, and it's about 1 foot apart. So sometimes you'll see soldiers putting their foot alongside the tombstone to make sure that there's consistency, and it's a nice even row as it goes all the way up and down. So a lot of flags in a very short period of time. So I was obviously honored to be a member of the Old Guard and do these tasks. I performed a couple of the Flags In ceremonies, but I also, again, my legacy was the funerals, and to be able to render the highest honors that I could do personally to a fallen soldier meant quite a bit to me. The very last full honor ceremony that I did was in 1974. It was for the former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Earl Warren. Of course, I never saw it, and there wasn't instant media or social media as there is today, but a friend of mine contacted me about 10 or 12 years ago and said, "Weren't you one of the guys for Earl Warren? Because I found some news footage." And so I'm going to share this with you. He sent it to me, and it was the first time that I had ever actually seen myself doing it. And I'll point out where there's a very young looking Michael Holub. You might remember the ABC broadcast team.
Were held today for former Chief Justice Earl Warren. Among those attending were President Nixon, others in high office, and many of the others Warren served for so many years. ABC's Frank Reynolds reports from Washington.
One old friend said the day was like his smile, full of sunshine, as the body of Chief Justice Earl Warren was taken today from the Supreme Court building, the place where he presided for 16 years over the Warren Court. Present and past members of the court accompanied the funeral cortege through the streets of Washington to the National Cathedral. The President and Mrs. Nixon entered the cathedral 15 minutes before the casket was brought in. When the service ended, the President crossed the aisle to speak to Mrs. Warren, then escorted her from the cathedral.
Here we are, the sounds of the cathedral.
The body of the Chief Justice was taken across the river to a hillside in Arlington Cemetery. In a prayer composed for the funeral of Chief Justice Warren, the Dean of the Washington Cathedral wrote these words: "Through him have we been given wider justice and a fairer share of the heritage to which all are heir in this land."
This was a typical
This is Frank Reynolds, ABC News, Washington.
It was probably in the upper 70s or low 80s, and the temperature was over 90, and we had a several mile walk up hills to Arlington National Cemetery, but we got it done. Did that screw up the screen again?
No, but Mike, you may not be aware, but that audio almost blocks you completely out, so we could barely hear you over that.
All right, well, sorry for that, but yeah, I was talking about a really young guy, Michael Holub, and you know, what an honor it was for us to do that, and the weather conditions that were just so hot. It was in the low 90s, really high humidity and several mile walk through Arlington Cemetery as we escorted him. It was the largest funeral I had ever done. And it was fitting that it was my final full honor funeral. So this is a picture of me here coming out the front of Fort Myer Chapel. This is another full honor funeral. This was a World War II general that was being buried, and we're carrying this casket to the back of the caisson as we prepare to enter Arlington Cemetery. So,
which one is you, Mike?
This second from the right, if you can see, I'm circling with my pointer arrow.
Yeah.
Got it.
Right. That's me. That's me there. Yeah, I'm not the guy in the box. So that's a good
But
so,
to paraphrase today, you guys all look alike.
Yes. So I don't know, Commander, if there's time, and if anyone has some questions, I'm
no, if you could unshare your screen,
Yes.
and then we could all look at each other, and I guess I'd like to start questions first. What does it take to become a member of this unit? I mean, is there a very strict vetting process?
Yeah, well, the infantry unit first you have to be infantry qualified. So there are some exceptions now because we've added an MP company, for example, and there are other MOSs and military occupations within the Army that would support the old guard. But the people performing these services are by and large infantrymen first and foremost. So you've gone through basic combat training, and then you've gone through your advanced infantry school. For me, again, I then had jump school, which the commander alluded to. But there are certain other criteria. You have to be a minimum height of 5'10", and your height and weight have to be commensurate, meaning that you can't be 5'10" and 265 pounds. You know, your height has to be commensurate. There's also scores that you have to have. I'm not sure how the scores are broken down currently, but at the time I was in, your scores all had to be over 110 to be considered eligible for the old guard. You have to go through a screening process, a background clearance. Most of the people that I served with had a secret as a security clearance just because of who you were in close proximity to, or the areas that you're at, whether that was services at the White House, or at the Pentagon, or wherever it could be. For example, one of the days that was a long day for me, if you remember President Nixon farewell leaving the White House, waving goodbye at the helicopter, I was one of the people there at the helicopter. Which also turned out to be a long day because Gerald Ford took over as president, and we were there. He didn't have an inaugural parade, but he had an inaugural banquet that evening. So, you know, then you get assigned based on your particular interest. You can sign up specifically to be a member of the Tomb Guards, or you can go to a line company where you can do one of the specialties we talked about. Everybody must become minimally ceremonial qualified, kind of like the concept in the Marine Corps or in the Army, where everybody is essentially a rifleman first. And everyone in the old guard has to be ceremonial qualified first, which means you can do these functions and you know the routines. So there's a lot of vetting, and it's not a unit for everybody, because not only would not everybody qualify, but some people would never want to do that. I wouldn't, you know, I had one of my best friends, one of my closest friends, a police officer of mine said, I couldn't have done the spit and polish. I wouldn't have done it. You know, and we've had other people that are harshly critical of us. You guys are the kabuki soldiers. You're not really soldiers. You know, they're critical on that aspect. But I can tell you the pride that runs so deep with the members of the old guard for being able to do what they did and render, in my case, the funerals that I did, where I was able to render those final services, still touches me today.
Any other questions, anybody?
Mike, there are rumors on Facebook that when a man is appointed to the old guard, to the tomb, the honor guard at the tomb, he has certain things that he may never do again in life. Is that true, or is that a fallacy?
It's based on the honor code and ethical code, but it's pretty much exaggerated. You know, it says you can never swear again or take a drink in your life, but it is based on a violation of ethical code or honor code. And there have been badges that have been revoked for a violation of those ethic code or honor code. But you know, you guys are all veterans, or you know veterans in various branches, and it's hard to find a service member that doesn't occasionally swear or take a drink. So it's grossly exaggerated. But again, there are people that have had their tune badge revoked and their number removed from the Wall of Honor. So again, based in a little bit of reality or truth because of the honor code and ethical code, but a little bit exaggerated as well.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, I only swear twice, day and night.
Okay, your badge is removed from what's going on. Let's have one more.
Come on and take it.
Yeah, okay. One more question. Here's a great opportunity to ask somebody with great experience. Please.
Yeah, I got a question. So, have you seen the movie Gardens of Stone? And if so, what were your impressions of that? Is that realistic about how the old guard was back in the 60s and 70s?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we have an association of former old guard members. I'm a past director and a member of the association. And there's a lot of people. That was filmed in mostly Delta Company, just for you know, minutia or trivia kind of thing. But yes, very accurate. A lot of the members of the old guard were used as extras in the film. You know, the sergeant who wound up coming in there, the actor D.B. Sweeney, is actually a close friend of mine, lives in Hinsdale. And, you know, I became such close friends with him that at my retirement party, he was one of the MCs. And he said, he bragged about being in a number of movies, including The Memphis Belle and 8 Men Out. He's a pretty, you know, he had a pretty good career as a member of the Hollywood. He's not very well thought of in the Hollywood circles because they don't really take, they don't accept the patriotism of some people. So, you know, you know, he may be a little bit too far up as a patriot for the mainstream Hollywood. But at my reunion, he talked about the movie Gardens of Stone and said that he was fortunate that he was able to portray Michael Holub in the movie, which was, you know, a nice little jest at me. But yeah, the movie was accurate. You know, the amount of discipline and strict things that went on there, yes. And it was filmed, as I said, with many members of the old guard as extras. There are stories from the set about James Caan acting out a little bit. He didn't want to go. The old guard insisted that he be up to standards when he did his manual of arms with the saber. And apparently he got a little tired of that. And so he called out one of the senior NCOs who happened to be a CIB wearing, combat infantry badge wearing, former Special Forces Ranger kind of guy. And, you know, I guess the next day James kind of wound up with a black eye that had to be covered up with makeup. But, you know, by and large, pretty accurate. You know, I own a copy of it. I have a nice autographed copy from DB. So he's still around in the area. And he was our guest speaker at our reunion, I think, 5 years ago. So, yeah, thanks for that great question, though, about Gardens of Stone.
Everybody, give Chief a hand. You can do it with your reaction. I'll give you there you go, my clap.
Hey, there you go. Well,
Chief, thank you so much. And Chief, what I'd ask you to consider is maybe sometime getting with Coach Sisolak and maybe making an opportunity to you know, talk to some of our scouts and things if you haven't done that. I think the scouts would be really inspired by what you have to say. And I want to say one last thing. I did send Chief a gift. I sent him a copy of the book I wrote about my late mother, which I hope he likes.
Right.
I will be getting you a certificate of appreciation from the American Legion. And then last but not least, and this is my segue to remind you all about next month's meeting, I've connected Chief Holub with the Pritzker Museum for him to do an oral history. I think what he has to say would be very beneficial for future generations, because remember, we aren't here forever. There will be a time and place for all of us, but what we leave for the future is critical for their education so that they learn from the past. So Chief, thank you. Thank you for doing that.
May I leave you with an anecdote/joke?
Sure.
When I was in grad school, I was listening to a professor talk about civil rights and civil liberties, and she made a comment about Earl Warren when he was the Justice of the Supreme Court and how so many decisions went towards the citizenry under the Warren Court. And she made a comment that he had just passed a couple of years ago, and I raised my hand. I said, "Excuse me, Professor, Earl Warren died in 1974. So she said, she gave me a shot. So she said, "Okay, Chief Holub is apparently a Earl Warren groupie, you know, he knows this stuff." And then she said something about the, freedom of speech and how during the Nixon inaugural, people were holding up signs about, Nixon and things. And that was a freedom of speech. And she said that was during Nixon's inaugural. And I said, again, I raised my hand. I get, "Professor, again, I hate to tell you this, but that was during his second term. It was his second inaugural, not his first time in 1973. And then she made another comment about all the dignitaries under the Nixon administration who came in, as foreign policy brought in Brezhnev, King Hussein of Jordan, all these world leaders to the National Capital Region. And she said, and I think that was like 75 or so. And I said, "Professor Carper, just one other correction." So she said, stop. Finally, I have to know, why do you know all this stuff and how do you know all this stuff? And I said, well, I marched in President Nixon's inaugural parade in January of 1973. I was at Lyndon Johnson's funeral in January of 1973. I was at the arrival ceremony for King Hussein of Jordan, Prime Minister Heath of Great Britain, Leonid Brezhnev of the Soviet Socialist Republic, and I was a casket bearer for Earl Warren. And she said, "Are you Forrest Gump?" Which cracked everybody up in the classroom, and broke but it was a very appropriate thing. And I went home and I told my wife the story. She said, "I can't believe you called out your professor." I said, "Well, these things were important to me. They were, I was a 19, 20-year-old kid just doing my job at the time, but they became historically significant in later years." So thank you for indulging me with that story, and it was an honor to speak to you guys today. And ladies,
Thanks.
Thank you again for setting it up today.
Thank you for coming, Mike.
And Chief, you can listen into our business or you can go. It's up to you. We love you either way. I just want to get through a little bit of business and then call it a night and things like that. So everybody, I'm just going to share my screen so you can see the the agenda. First thing, I kind of wanted to get a sense of Mr. Ward. I know Mr. Ward's been going to the hospital. John's been out there. Do either of you guys have a sense of what's going on with people out there? You've been making some calls. What are some things that we should be keeping in mind in regards to members in terms of buddy checking? Is there anything you've noticed, any comments that have been made if you've been making any phone calls? John?
I didn't make the calls today because I was having an argument with my computer.
Okay, and did you win?
Yes, I did. Well, I'm here. So I'm one and Microsoft is two. And the problem was I had a split screen. And every time I tried to get everything to work, it would just shut off. But I got it done, and so I didn't get a chance to talk to anybody this month, but I will get back to them next month.
And Mr. Ward, will you be able to do that as well?
I will, Commander, if you get us the updated list you promised us.
Yes, Marla and I are working that, so we will get you an updated list. I just want to make sure that we're checking on people and getting a sense of what's going on. Also, with that said, I want to let you know, Tony LaPiena wanted me to let you all know that he had a procedure and there's going to be on his kidney. And I can't go into more details. I don't know more detail, but would you hold him in his prayers? Hold him all in your prayers, because I'm worried about him when the pathology report comes back. So if you could hold Tony as our friend, our son SAL member from Guardian Corps, and he helps the homeless veterans. So he just wanted me to put out that he's just hold him in your prayers. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. In terms of community outreach, that's the next agenda item. I'm looking at it on my other screen. I wanted to let you know that poppies were passed out to the best of my knowledge. So I believe 150 poppies went to First American Bank. 150 poppies went out to Riverside Finer Foods, and 150 poppies were distributed last weekend. I hope, Alex, if you can confirm this, if you heard, at the Township Shredder event that Vera Wilt was holding. So you don't know. Okay, that's fine, Alex. I appreciate that. And so we did get the physical poppies out there. And then I will share the screen again because I want you to see some information about money. As you can see right now, our operational count is at $1,624 because I've purchased caps for new members. And I had to transfer $2,000 from our CD. But what I would like you to notice is that right now our escrow memorial account is up to $2,000, above $2,000, and that includes 2 donations of $300 from 2 of our members, plus a $100 check from Mrs. Storsel, plus the rest of the money was earned by Marla's great virtual poppy.
Woo, $200 in the PayPal account.
So,
ching, ching.
So the point I'm trying to make is that we did pretty good for poppy season, and that escrow account grows. I'm trying to get a report from the bank about our CD. I'm not sure where it is, but I will keep you guys updated about this. So the big thing I need to start in the first new business is simply this, everybody. We have to vote on officers. We have to vote on officers because I've got to turn in a sheet of paper. So, and right now, you know, we know that I'm the commander. This sounds weird for me saying that. I'm the commander. Jason Hensley is the vice commander. Mr. Dolish is still our chaplain. John is John Riccio is our chaplain. And that's kind of where we are at. So is there anybody that would like to be the adjutant or finance officer or service officer or sergeant at arms? I volunteered in the past to be the judge advocate. I would love to have somebody who's a historian. The problem with this is that what? You what?
I do sergeant at arms.
All right. Well then, great. We got, so what I would offer to you all is this. Unless there's somebody who's wanting to do anything, I would ask that we keep things the way we are and slate it so that what we do is we have the same people as our leaders, but we add Jason as a sergeant of arms. And so what we do with Jason as sergeant of arms is he's my hitman. So if somebody hasn't done something right, I sick Jason on you. Is that fair? Would that be good? Is there anybody that wants to do anything else? Like, I'd love to have a service officer, but you know.
Commander, I think that I speak for myself, but I think John will agree. I think we can be your service officers. Maintaining phone conversation with the membership so that we know that if anyone is in trouble or sick, we might know about it first.
Okay. So
would you agree, John?
Would that be okay, John? You could be joint service officers, just checking in on people?
Did John me?
Yes, you, John, you.
Okay, you, John, me. Okay, yes, that's fine with me.
Okay, so I will do that, and so we'll have a larger slate of people, and I'll remain the judge advocate, which is probably a conflict of interest for me advising myself. It's kind of like a surgeon operating on himself. And so that's what I'll submit. So could I have a motion to have that slate? So that would mean that I would be commander, Jason would still be vice commander, Mr. Dolish will be adjutant, even though I'm kind of doing it for him, and that's okay. John Riccio will remain chaplain. Jason will become, the other Jason will become our sergeant at arms, and John Neppel and Tony Ward will become our service officers. Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Ayes have it, and it has passed. So thank you very much. I can fill out that form. The second thing I wanted to ask you all is because I got this little notice in the mail from American Legion is committee interests. And I sent something out to you all by email a couple of days ago. And what they do is they have this thing called, I'll go back to the screen so you all can see me. They have these post chairman positions. And so they have baseball, Boy Scouts, community service, premier boy state, religious emphasis, education and scholarship, public relations, technology, Sons of the American Legion liaison, State Fair Vet Day, disaster relief, Legion riders, Legion leadership, POW MIA, safety, law and order, gifts to the Yanks. I have never heard of that. Hospital services, poppy sale production, Veterans Assistant Liaison, Veterans Home Advisory, Flag Alliance, National Cemetery, monument, and then veterans, employment, and education. Is there anything that interests you? And the reason I bring this up is because I know that he's not here right now. What happened? He's left. Okay. I know that some people in the past have shown interest in Premier Boy State. I know that some people have shown interest in, emergency issues. Is there anybody that's interested in any of those things that are listed? And if not, that's okay. I just need to be able to run this by you all to see, is there any interest? Hearing none, I will say there is none, and I will just fill it out as I normally do, and I will send it off. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about is 4th of July. I sent an email out to you all yesterday. We do have a 4th of July speaker we're going to do a 4th of July this year because, as Alex knows, Alex, can you tell everybody what's happening with 4th of July this year?
Certainly. The 4th of July, as we know it, will not be the same as we've had in years past. The parade, as we know, has been canceled. They will have a few vehicles from the fire department and the police department that will go through all the streets in Riverside so that families can view them from their front lawns. There will not be a parade that goes down Long Common like normal. There will be no after gathering at Guthrie Park like we're used to.
Yeah.
It's going to be fire trucks, police cars. They might film it from the fire truck so that everyone in the village can be on film waving and showing their patriotism, flags, etc. But it will not be what we're accustomed to for the last 105 years.
So I thought we should do something for the 4th of July. So I have talked to Joe Weigand, and he confirmed with me yesterday. He will be doing Teddy Roosevelt's speech about being a citizen of a republic made in Paris back in 18-something. And Joe Weingard is originally from DeKalb County, Illinois, now lives in North Dakota, and he will be our guest speaker as Teddy Roosevelt. I hope you all think that's neat. This is the website where he's located. As you know, he's done this, he's doing this free of charge because he wants to give back to the Legion. So I want you all to be excited about the fact that we are going to do something fun for Riverside, but more importantly, Marla and I are going to market this. We had close to 50 people, 50 contacts with Abraham Lincoln. And I didn't take a vote, or maybe I did make a vote, but I expanded our Zoom coverage to 500 people for about $20 more a month. So now we can take almost 500 people now on a Zoom presentation. So frankly, everybody, I would encourage you all to let people know that at 4 o'clock Central on July 4th, Teddy Roosevelt is speaking for Post 488 and for the Village of Riverside. What do you think about that? Neat idea?
Teddy Roosevelt's going to be on.
See? Somebody's already excited. Teddy Roosevelt.
If you guys look up his bio, like he's big stuff, like nationwide, big Teddy Roosevelt interpreter. So
Nice.
Okay, and then, so 4th of July. The other thing I wanted to touch on is the letter to the future. Marla sent it out. Along with working with Coach Sisolak, along with working with the Chief of Public Works, the intent at Guthrie Park is to change the Guthrie Park plaque on that stone by the memorial and replace it with the plaque that was awarded to us for the from the World War I Commission. Coach is working on getting a bronze plaque to place the other plaque onto because the size is different from the plaque that's coming off. So my intent has been always to have a plaque on the back of that stone, which is a letter to the future. Coach and I were talking the other day, and one of the things I mentioned to Coach, I said, Coach, isn't it funny that when you're in the military, you always get instructions? You know, when you put up a tent, there's always instructions on how to put the tent up. Well, shouldn't there be instructions for our memorial? And so I've proposed this letter to the future so that when all of us are gone, And Alex someday is this elderly guy, and he's walking there with his grandchild, and he walks into the memorial, and his grandchild, female or male, looks up and says, Grandpa Alex, what do all these stones mean? And Grandpa Alex will say, you know, Junior, see that little note right there? Let me read it to you. And that's the instructions as to what this memorial means to the future, a letter to the future. I don't know where I came up with that idea. I think it may have been one of you all, but I think it's wonderful because, no, I think it was Coach that gave me the idea, because we spend so much time telling people what things are, and then when we're gone, who tells the story? There's got to be something that tells a story. And if you've ever been on a military post and you've seen something named after somebody, there's always a plaque with a story. Why? Because people come and go, but who preserves the story? So we need to preserve the story. Another thing, yes, Mr. Ward.
May I make a suggestion at the bottom of that letter? Put in the month and year, so that someone will know when we did this.
Okay.
So that 50 or 100 years from now, if it's still there, someone will know that Post 488, SAL Post 488 did this in June of 2020.
Okay, got it.
What if there's already a letter to the future on the back of the plaque that we're going to take off?
You know, that would be interesting, Marla.
Wouldn't
Wouldn't that be interesting? Actually, I think there might be a copy of the original Mona Lisa there, and it's got to be worth some money. Actually, there's a treasure
Directions
map.
to Hoffa?
It was there.
Actually, there's a treasure map on the back of it. There is gold bullion underneath the water tower.
Well, just a bunch of Goonies. I'll follow some treasure maps.
Okay. Hey, Ron is back. Ron, I know you've been interested. I know you've been interested in Premier Boy State in the past. Do you want me to put you down as being our post chairman for Boy State?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Ron. I got my first post chairman ever. Ah! Thank you, Ron. God bless you.
Okay.
All right. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is I need 2 votes from you all. Coming up, one of the votes I have, and I'm sharing the screen again, is working with the Network for Good to raise funds for the Gold Star Memorial. I've been watching a lot of videos lately, and the Network for Good is that organization. Have you ever seen on the Facebook when you make a donation for an organization? Have you ever done that? Like somebody has a birthday and they say, hey, for my birthday, I want you to donate. Have you ever seen that? John,
Yep.
have you ever seen that? Anybody ever seen that? Walter, have you ever
I've
seen
seen
that?
it.
Well, who runs that? It's called the Network for Good. And I'd like your vote of support for Marla and I to work more with them to find ways where we can raise money for us as a nonprofit for the memorial. Can I have a motion on that?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you. Well, Marla and I will be working on that. The other thing too is Tony was very sick the other day, and so I needed to get food delivered to him in Lombard. So I got one of these third-party vendors of 2-week free account to order food for him to be delivered to his home. I would like you all to consider my motion for the Post to purchase an account full-time, so that if we have any members in the future who may not have family available, one of us, me, somebody, anybody can call that vendor and have groceries delivered. And I know, Mr. Ward, you have access to the pantry, but I didn't have that option the other day when I called. So, and I'll open it for discussion first. Maybe you don't agree, but if I didn't have that vendor deliver food, Tony would not have been able to have food for several days, and I was worried about him, just like I would be worried about anybody. Do I have any discussion about that?
That's a good idea.
How
Any
much
other
does it
discussion?
cost, Commander?
It's $100 a year, $99 a year. So with taxes, about $100 a year.
I'll donate a month.
I guess that's well. Thank you very much. I mean, you don't have to worry about donating a month. Would be thank you, Marla. I'll keep that in mind. You can make you can make a donation to the
I'll
post.
donate like $10 or round it
That's
up, whatever.
So any thoughts about this? Because I would like to be. I mean, because I'll probably wind up paying it out of my own money, but I appreciate if the Post did it, so I could say, hey, Post is sending you some food, and if I need a few bucks to pay for the groceries, I'll call you up later on. It's kind of like getting flowers here and there when people die. I'm just worried about people right now because we got some members who are alone, and those members could be.
Motion, Commander, to accept it.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, it carries. Auxiliary information. Walter, is your wife still interested in the auxiliary?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, has your wife talked to Marla?
No.
No,
Okay.
she hasn't.
Email me.
Would she make a commitment?
Okay.
Would she make a commitment to me that she and Marla will talk?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I
'Cause
just
you
gave her email address.
Okay. Marla, could you put on the chat area for Walter your email address?
On it right now.
Thank you.
And I emailed Ms. Conister and President Coughlin yesterday.
Yes, thank you.
We are going to be getting in touch, but I have no eligibility, so I need Mr. Ward to adopt me.
Yes.
Consider it done.
Marla, just like with Alex, one way or another, I'm going to figure out how to get
Find it.
Alex.
I was like,
Sons
how
of
about a
Agent.
great uncle? She's like, that doesn't count. I'm like, but it's my great uncle.
And he
It
was
should
great.
count.
And he was a great uncle. You liked him. He was great.
Yeah.
That's important. Just like because I want to see a cap on your head and I want to see a cap on Alex's head. Why? Why not? As my late mother would say, you can't be a member of the American Legion if you don't have a cap. I live by that rule. And then the last thing, Marla, I want you to report in. What's going on? Let's have a Marla report.
So my report was, we got $200 for the virtual poppy, which I think is pretty dang good for being a virtual poppy. Like, what is that, right? So it was kind of like out on a whim. We just kind of came up with it. We went with it. It made quite a few news articles, if you guys saw, I think two or three of them. So that was exciting. So we're in the news. And I know that I need to get information to Mr. Nepple and Mr. Ward, but I only have emails. So I need a membership.
I will get it for you. The problem is I found out that mylegion.org doesn't print out full lists.
Okay. I have an SAL phone number log, but not a regular Post 48 one.
And you want to make sure that Coach gets that so that he can start consolidating his power
Okay.
and influence and
Good.
prestige and his plans for conquest of the village of Riverside. See, he's laughing. He got me. He got the joke. I'm glad. I was wondering if he was still awake. Anything else, Marla?
Otherwise, the only other thing that I'm thinking of is that it's going to be a long, hot, hopefully, undecisive summer. We don't really know like which direction things are going to go. We don't know if things are going to open up too quick, if there's going to be a second wave, what's going to happen with anything. So if you guys have ideas of things that we can do to kind of get recognized out there, to like put our logo out there, to put, just to place, to be placed in places, to be recognized, send it in the email or come on the meeting and tell us maybe we're not thinking of something, just so people know. And it doesn't only have to be Riverside, obviously, be in other towns, just so we can, people can come and hang out.
I agree, Marla. And by the way, yes, Mr. Ward, sir.
I was going to bring this up. Here in Berwyn, for about the last 7 or 8 years, on the 4th of July, we have gathered veterans, SAL members, Ladies Auxiliary members, and we go to many of the public buildings I think the last count was 14. We start at 6 a.m. We go to the various schools, fire stations, public works, police departments, city hall. We raise the flag, take the flag down to its lowest point on the staff, raise the flag, play reveille, and usually fire a volley. Well, I decided this year, Greg and I decided to bring this back. However, we decided that we wanted to include members of other veterans groups in other communities. When we complete this task, usually at about 7:40, 8 o'clock in the morning, we've gathered in the past for a community breakfast. Veterans all gather at one restaurant. We sit down, break bread, have camaraderie. I've spoken to the members within my community. I'm speaking presently with the members in the Cicero Legion Post, and I'm speaking to all the members of Riverside Post. Now, I don't know if some of you guys would like to gather at the flagpole early in the morning, bring the flag down, bring the flag back up, salute it, and join us at about 8:30 for this fellowship breakfast.
Bring the post flags, and we put the flags up around the breakfast area.
We're going to do it. We're planning on doing it at Connie's outside. I don't know if you've seen the new pictures. They have cinder blocks and wood rails forming a fence. We will take all the flags, bring a stand with you, obviously. We'll put the flags up against the wood rails and take bungee cords and attach them. We'll get the media to come out and give us some coverage that even though this COVID-19 is here and still here, and we can't do what we wanted to do, we can't have parades, we can't have fireworks show, but the veteran community has not forgotten that this is our 234th birthday. So I think it would be a good idea if the members, and I'll get you the details as I hash them out, because this is a very hard to do thing, to gather all these people together. And if every community's post would do something within their community and then videotape it on a cell phone, we could put this together and put it out on Facebook and YouTube, or make certain that the video feed is available to the military, to the media, so that the citizens understand we did not forget.
Okay, Mr. Ward, I will. Let's put the information out, and you can definitely take our colors. Don't.
Okay.
You got to give them back though.
Well, the only problem that I pose on this is that, as we all agree, money is tight. I can't afford to pay the tab for everyone. So if you come to the breakfast, you got to kick into the hat. I just don't have that kind of cash.
If anybody goes, let me know, and the commander will treat for breakfast. Okay? Because I like Chinese.
Because I feel that we're supporting a business that supports us, and we're letting the people in our communities know that we didn't forget the birthday for our country.
Well, I know John will go because I think John likes Connie's. Ron will probably go because he likes Connie's. So
when is it?
It's 4th of July.
On the 4th of July, John.
What time?
I'll say no, Greg. That's when we start the drive around. I'll say breakfast will probably start at about 8:30, sir.
Okay.
But I'll get all the details worked out, get them to the commander. He can get them to Marla. She can do her magic electronic thing with the adoption papers, and we'll be all good.
So before I run around everybody else, I just want to put out one more thing to everybody. Next month, we have our meeting we'll have a meeting on July 19th. Leah Cohen will be talking about oral histories from the Pritzker Memorial Museum. 4th of July, we will have Theodore Roosevelt speaking at 4 p.m. Central. On August 14th at 6 p.m., we'll have our August meeting where Charles Mihalik will be talking. He's from the Friends of the Bohemian National Cemetery. We've had him before in person, but this will be the first time we have him online to talk about veterans memorials. And this just came out today. This is brand new. On September 11th, which will be the second Friday of the month, we will have Alan Lynch as our guest speaker, Congressional Medal of Honor from the northern suburbs of Illinois. So we have a lot of great speakers coming up. July, August, September. Put the word out. These are great opportunities. We had a great speaker tonight. I would have liked to have seen more people, but luckily, Marla records these things so people can see them later on. But I really would like to see young people at some of these things. I got such a great feeling seeing young people watching Abraham Lincoln speak on Memorial Day and smiling. I needed to see that. Under these conditions, I need to see people smiling. We need some smiles out there, and we need some inspiration. And what better inspiration on 4th of July than a little bully? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you need to do some reading on Teddy Roosevelt. He is a face on Mount Rushmore, so he's got to be significant if they put him up there. So we need some bully for 4th of July. Walter gets it. He's smiling, and so is John. So that's all I have. So I'm going to go around. We already talked to Marla. John, do you have anything for the good of the order?
No, sir.
Thank you for doing what you're doing and reaching out and getting a sense of what's happening, because I find that when you talk to enough people, you can get actually a sense of what's going on in the community. You can see some trends. You just get a feel, and you got that good NCO instincts in you, so you can get a sense of, hey, you called me up and it's like, Joe, I think we got an issue. Maybe do you want to call the police off? Do you want to call the police chief? No, I'm serious. I've had people call me, Joe, I haven't heard from so-and-so. And I've called Chief Wenzel. And Chief Wenzel has sent an officer out. And apparently there's an officer on the Riverside Police Department that is a veteran that I'd like to nab as a member. Nothing like having a police officer as part of the American Legion post. Thanks, John. Greg, do you have anything for the good of the order?
Yes. The Combined Veterans Luncheon and Expo, which was originally scheduled for July 18th, has been officially postponed to a tentative date of September 12th. Now, that date is not a guarantee. I spoke to the executive director of the Borough Park District. They cannot commit to any events at this time. So it is a tentative date that is hinged upon us getting to phase 5 of the reopening Illinois plan, which means we would have a clear-cut treatment for COVID-19, either a vaccine or another type of treatment. The other possibility, and it's looking more like it's going to be that, is a virtual expo, which would simply be a large Zoom meeting such as this, except in much grander scale. And we'll possibly have to break it up into more than one day, possibly Saturday and Sunday, because just doing the numbers, if we gave 50 exhibitors 10 minutes apiece, it would be over 8 hours. So what we're going to have to do is I'm doing my research to figure out the best way to do this. I've got a conference call set up Monday with the BDC here in Bruins to go over possibilities, because they've done virtual health fairs and things like that, to see how they have done that in their format. I spoke to my contact at Mission Barbecue earlier today, told them the possibility of a virtual expo, which would technically nix the luncheon part of it. But what we want to do is we want to partner with them and encourage donors to make a donation in return for instance, if you donate $50, you would get a $10 voucher or coupon toward a certain choice of businesses, and Mission Barbecue would be one of them. We would also partner with many of the local businesses here to help some of the businesses that have been hurt by the pandemic and the riots as well. So that's all. It's just we're trying to put together the model that we're going to eventually pull the trigger on. The decision about that will most likely be made the first or second week of August, because putting that together is going to take a little bit of time. I'm going to hear next week from the operating partner at Mission Barbecue how we can streamline that, because it'd be great, someone donates us $50, then we have to take $10, go buy the gift cards or vouchers, however, we're going to work on trying to streamline that so it'll be more automated in that sense. But yeah, hopefully we will get to phase 5. Currently, at last report 2 days ago, the governor says we are on track to hit phase 4 on June 26th, which is a Friday. And that allows groups gatherings of 50 or less. That allows bars and restaurants to open at limited capacity, schools to open at limited capacity. And like I said, hopefully we'll be able to get to phase 5 in time. But if we do get to phase 5, let's just say hypothetically at the end of July, it's going to be a mad rush to put this event together in that amount of time. Even though we did something similar the first year in 2018, not looking forward to do that again.
No,
But
I understand. I understand, Greg. I get it.
The good
Yeah.
news about that is that the list is already there. The contacts are already there. About 70 exhibitors were signed up as of March 6th. So all I got to do is reach out to them and say, this is what we're doing. Are you on board? You know, it's not going to be a 5-hour event this time. You maybe be on there, maybe 20 minutes total. So the investment in time and materials would be much less. So there'd be more of an incentive to do it virtually. The thing we don't like is that just the mention of possibly nixing the luncheon almost got drawn and quartered. So, but we want to do this event no matter what in some form, because there are businesses out there, there are people out there that need these resources that we have compiled over the last couple of years, and it can help this community get back on its feet in some part. So we're just trying to do our part in serving our community. As you all know, we added a job fair this year with about 6 different agencies here in Berwyn, a couple outside of Berwyn. So those agencies are probably going to get slammed after they're allowed to open up. So we're hoping to do our part, get this thing together, and we're going to live stream onto Facebook. So the exhibitors will be in the meeting, and anyone who wants to watch the meeting and glean the information from that exhibitor that they're presenting can see that. If they want to comment on it and ask a question, we will have someone monitoring the Facebook feed. We can get the question written down or copied and say, okay, we've got a question on Facebook from this user, and here's the question, and they can go through the answer, the Q&A. Once that's done, the next exhibitor takes over. Also, we will work on doing a simulcast through YouTube. So we will also have someone monitoring the YouTube feed, so we can have questions coming from both ends. It's going to take some work to get it all done. We will need more than 2 people to do it. So like I said, that's the model that we're working on putting together. But we do need to make a decision pretty soon, within the next month or month and a half maybe, to really start getting this thing going, because it's going to be huge.
Understood. Thank you, Greg.
No problem.
Alex is one of our leaders of Village of Riverside. Is there anything you'd like to put out for the good of the order?
I don't have anything right now, but I believe you did announce that by email at least, Tom Sissel was named as the Distinguished Citizen.
Wow, really?
Did you know that yet?
Yeah, I already told everybody, but we're always trying to joke about the fact that wow, he's a celebrity now. Wow.
Taking over the world, Coach.
Alex, does he get a certificate for that or a plaque?
Eventually, when the township hall reopens, there is a plaque on the township side of the village hall, which has all the names of the Bill Jansky Distinguished Citizen recipients. When it does reopen, his name will get engraved on there. The Lions Club normally does have a meeting where we invite anybody to come to, where he is presented with that as well. When that happens, we'll of course forward that to anybody who from this organization is interested in attending as well.
Okay, I just hope that when you take that picture and you immortalize him in metal, I hope that he has his SAL cap on during that photograph. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. That says Commander on it. That's just my hint. I might, I'm just hinting here. What do you think? Okay, thanks, Alex.
Coach, just make sure you use your powers for good, Coach.
Yes, and remember, what do they say in Spider-Man?
With
power
great
from-
power comes great responsibility.
Yes, that's exactly. From
Thank you.
Our representative from the autonomous region of Yorkville, Illinois, Mr. Rosica, do you have anything for the good of the order? You're on mute, Mr. Rosica. If some your microphone is not working.
Microphone's not working.
That happened to me too.
Try it again.
Turn it back on.
Unmute.
Unmute.
Mr. Rosica,
There you go.
Try it again. Yeah, try it again.
Well, should not
There he
be-
is.
Yeah, we got you. Yeah.
I don't know what I did, but it works.
You broke it.
Just to compliment you on a good meeting, on a great meeting. I had a little problem getting in, but hopefully I'll get it straightened out eventually. I tried getting on through it with Internet Explorer, and then I got on, but I didn't have the audio, so I got off, and then tried with Firefox and was able to.
Yeah. For now on, what I use now is I use what is that, Marla? What is that multicolored circle? That's not Firefox?
Chrome?
Chrome. I use Chrome for everything now.
Really, Joe?
I'm sorry.
Jim, also a note, Internet Explorer has not been a supported browser for 6 years, so you could be subject to hacking and viruses and all that stuff like that. So I would suggest to you that you not use it anymore.
Yes, we are in the process of trying to change everything over to a Firefox.
Mr. Rosica,
Firefox is still supported.
Mr. Rosica, I talk about you so much.
You do?
You don't even realize it, because I have people that will tell me. I was talking to Miss Cozy yesterday, Joanne Cozy, and she said, "Now, Peppy, it's all the technology." And I said, Mr. Rosica has gotten on the webcam. I mean, come on. If he can do it, so can Mr. Cozy. Oh, Peppy, Mrs. Cozy. It's not that hard. It's like riding a bike. Once you get going, you're going. So you are, I hate to say this, but you are my poster child that anybody can use Zoom. Just a matter of you got to work on it. So I just wanted to let you know I was talking about you in vain, but it was a positive vein, okay?
Well, thank you. Thank you for the honor.
You're welcome, Mr. Rosica. Mr. Ward, you've already said a few things, so do I dare ask you if there's anything more?
Coach, where's the video for Memorial Day?
It's online.
Go to YouTube, type in Riverside Memorial Day Program 2020.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Anything else, Mr. Ward?
Not a thing, Commander.
Mr. Newman, anything for the good of the order?
Yes, sir. I want to, yes, sir. Joe, that was disturbing news to hear about Tony. Tony did contact me a few times the last few months, but last time was about 3 weeks ago, and he asked me, how am I doing? So I said, I'm fine, how are you? I don't know if he responded to that, but I'm gonna have to check up on him because I used to help him. He had 2 or 3 storerooms and I moved stuff around for him. I saw one notice he was interested in folding cots. I do have 2 folding cots for him now. And anyway, I'll see what he's up to.
I will talk to him tonight, and I will talk to him tomorrow, and I'll have him call you, okay?
Okay, good.
Me too.
And
Okay.
the other, I wanted to thank you for the heads up during that storm. I know you checked on me a few times, and the storm didn't last very long, in Riverside. But 2 hours later, my power went out.
Yeah, your power went out twice. Your power went out twice.
Yeah.
You gotta understand, I have cameras all over my house in Riverside. And so I thought somebody was trying to break in, and it was one of the trees doing this in the storm. And then I saw I'm always getting messages from the village of Riverside, and so I forwarded that thing about the storm because I'm watching this tree in front of my house in Riverside going like this, and I'm I'm sending this out to everybody because I don't know if everybody's getting it. So hopefully you all got
Yeah.
that message. Okay.
Yeah.
If you, by the way, if you have all not signed up for your respective communities flashes, you need to sign up. I knew what was going on in North Riverside Park before a lot of people knew what was going on in North Riverside Park, and they were living near North Riverside Park because of the flashes.
Yeah.
Ron, sign up for the Riverside Flash. Alex, I know has
Okay.
Riverside Flash. I know he does. He must have it. John, you need to sign up for the Riverside Flash. And Greg and Mr. Ward, you need to sign up for any Berwyn equivalents. And
Already got it.
Okay, and Walter, I don't know what's in Lake. Is it Lake of the Woods that you're at?
Lake in the Hills.
Lake of the Hills. I was going to say Land O'Lakes, but that's butter and cheese, and I don't want to do that. You need to sign up for your respective Flash. And Mr. Rosica, I don't know what they do in your part of the world, but you need to sign up for it as well.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Ron. Walter
And
Watts.
I had
Yes,
something
Earl.
else.
Yes, Ron. Sorry.
You said we should register at the mylegion.org.
Yes.
What does that do?
It basically it gives you it's your account. It gives you an account.
Oh, okay.
And so
Okay.
I can send messages to you that way, and you can update information that way. So it's not always it makes it easier, but they say there's lots of benefits to it, but I'm trying to figure it out still. So bear with me.
Okay, one other thing, I wanted to congratulate Coach Tom. That Memorial Day, he had an excellent service by the flagpole. I know it was limited. You still hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. And I know it was limited, but Coach Tom, he had different people read off every name on the plaques. That was very interesting. And then the other part was the Colonel.
Tom Day.
Yeah, Tom Day. He blew the taps, and he had the 21 gun salute. And Coach Tom actually gave me a blank 2 or 3 years ago, and I always keep that to remind me. I always keep that. And then the coach, put the reef in the river. It did float away. So thank you, Coach Tom.
You're welcome. Glad that you were able to be there, Ron. And Tony and Greg also came from Berwyn.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Ward. Thank you, Mr. Hopper. So Walter, thank you, Ron Newman. Hey, Walter, anything for the good of the order?
Yes, we still have some webcams. So if somebody needs a webcam, let me know. We can. I've got at least 1 or 2, and we can get more if we need them. And I'm looking forward. I'm apparently not yet officially a member of the Post, but I'm looking forward to becoming a member. So just really excited about that.
And thank you, Walter, for helping me out with the webcams. The goal is to get everybody online. This is the future. And whether there's a pandemic or not, things are not going to change. And then last, but not least, the man who will be immortalized in metal, the man who deserves, God, it sounds like a scene from Rocky too, or Rocky 3. A man that deserves no introduction because his reputation precedes him. Coach Sisolak, what do you have for the good of the order? You're
Well,
our
I
last
wish
speaker.
Wish to thank everybody for your congratulations on the Lions recognition, and I would like to suggest that everybody stay safe and don't be threatened by any of the rioters in any fashion.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm now declaring this meeting. What?
Andy, you're missing somebody at the bottom.
No, I think
708.
I think that's Coach Sisolak. I think he called in twice, right?
No, that's Alex.
Oh, okay. So who is at 708-205-7428?
It's Alex.
That's Alex. Oh, so he's calling in and he's seeing his picture.
Correct.
Okay, good. Well, then there is nobody else, Mr. Ward. That's it.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay, no worries, Mr. Ward. You got to keep me honest. So everybody, it has been an absolute pleasure seeing you all. Some of you I will see on Wednesday at 4:30. As always, thank you, Marla, for your continuing support and amazing abilities to keep me on track. And so as the commander, I declare that this general meeting of Riverside Post 488, American Legion Department of Illinois adjourned. Please, everybody, have a great, great weekend. And I hope you look forward to a bully 4th of July. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Have a good
Bye,
day.
everyone.
Have a good month.
I'll just hang on, and if anybody has any, I'm just going
I'm
to
like,
hang
should
on.
I end it? Should I
No,
just wait?
keep going until everybody disappears. Let me be the last person.
I'm going to stop recording.
What do they say about command?